Hello there and welcome back to the channel. This is Mel's Gaming here with another The Hunter Call of the Wild video. Now today's video, by popular request, is going to be a Eurasian lynx guide here on Medved Tiger. Now there is one thing I need to start off this video by saying, and I think this is partly the reason that this has been such a requested video, is that recently the devs actually confirmed that they plan to remove the drink zones for lynx here on Medved Tiger in a future update. So at the moment, these lynx do have drink zones, feed zones and rest zones, as same as most animals in the game, but they plan to remove their drink zones, similar to how they have with Jackal and Springbok over on Virunga Savannah. And yeah, that might make hunting lynx a little bit more tricky. So this is a pretty prime opportunity time to go and hunt lynx if you're looking for a rare or a diamond for your trophy lodge, just before they remove those zones. We don't know when that update is going to happen, they haven't said, but they did say they plan to remove their drink zones. So that's why we're doing this video here today, and hopefully it will be helpful. Now, one thing about this is it's going to be a little bit different to how I do some of my guides. In most of my guides, I normally go through in detail every single location where I have that species drinking. Now, if I was to do that for the Eurasian lynx, we would be here for absolutely forever, because there's just so many places where the lynx can drink. So rather than doing that, I'm just going to sort of go through and show you quickly all the locations where I have found lynx drinking on this map, which is almost every body of water, to be honest with you guys, and also give you some hints and tips as to how I hunt them. Obviously, we'll start off here by talking about their drink time, which goes from 19:30 to 23:30. Now, I always start hunting them after 2100, and I do that because I have found that that is the time where consistently most lynx are then in their zones. I've tried hunting earlier than that, sort of 20:30, all of those sort of times, you know, right at the start of their drink time, and they're just not in their zones. But after 2100, I have found it to be pretty consistent with most lynx actually finally being in their zones. They do seem pretty slow to actually get to those drink zones. Now, I'm not saying you won't find any lynx in their drink zones before 2100, you probably will, but it seems that more individuals will actually have shown up to their drink zone after that 2100 time. That's my entire point. But obviously they can drink at that lake where I just showed the need zone time. They can also drink at this little hidden lake here where you can see there's a couple of drink zone icons. There's not a lynx zone actually here, but they do show up here. When you shoot lynx, it will more often than not delete the zone because there's only one or two individuals there, but they do show up at all of these lakes I'm going over here pretty consistently, even though that it doesn't actually show the fact that there's a zone there with a little zone icon. All through here, these two little lakes and this big Bolsheva lake, all these little lakes up here they can drink. They'll drink along the ice up here. All the way along here I've had a lot of lynx actually. I've had them down into here. Now, these two little lakes here and the two little lakes below it, which I'm just going to show, these ones here, I haven't had lynx drinking there as far as I know from when I was grinding. I never saw any there, but it's probably worth a check on your own map. All along the ice around here and around here I've had them drinking. Again, no zones to show on the map here because I've been going through shooting lynx and it almost always deletes the zone, but they do come back to that same area. Along here I've had drink zones popping up quite often as well, sometimes males, sometimes females. Around here, all of these little lakes in this sort of little area where there's quite a few of them grouped together, all of these lakes I've had lynx drinking at. Sometimes they show up at one lake and not another, but all of these quite consistently there will be lynx around. So normally I'll just do a route around and go around all of those lakes. This lake here right by the outpost I've had a few drinking. This lake over here I've had them drinking. There was actually males and females there, some drinking down here as well. I've had a few in the crater. They're normally in this little bit of the crater down here though, but they can show up pretty much anywhere in that crater it seems. In here they'll drink. All of these little lakes down here, they'll drink all around here. Again, sometimes they'll show up at one lake and not another once you've shot them, but they do seem to turn up here quite a lot. These two lakes here, I've had them drinking here. That's actually quite a nice spot for them. I like down here for the lynx. This lake here I've had lynx at as well. And this is a major hotspot. This strip of ice that goes right down the middle of the map, I have a lot of lynx that turn up down here. If you think you're not finding many lynx, go down this sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, ravine, I guess, with the ice in the very middle of the map, and you'll probably find quite a lot of lynx in there. Now, do not forget to check your little hidden lakes, such as this one here. This one has had lynx a couple of times. This one here, I don't think I've had lynx at, actually. But again, probably worth checking. If they can drink that close nearby, you might have one on your map that drinks there. So go check it. I would definitely say go check those spots. This is another reason why I'm not going into super detail, because they seem to vary quite a lot with where they drink. And of course, this little hidden lake here, I normally have lynx here, and this is actually where I shot the melanistic in multiplayer, was at this little hidden lake. So do make sure to go and check all your little hidden lakes and see if you've got any lynx drinking there, basically. Now, something that, like I was saying, your map can be very different to mine. You might find lynx at different lakes to me, and I've noticed that as I was grinding them, because, like I said, there's normally only 1 or 2 individuals in a zone. So once you've shot them, that zone then deletes and they'll move around. Because once you've shot all of the animals that come to a zone, it deletes. So, yeah, like here you can see this is one of the small hidden lakes. And sometimes I have maybe 3 lynx here. This time there was only 1, and this was just a solo male. Now, it's been kind of like a general rule with lynx for quite a while that you normally find more males on the left-hand side and more females on the right-hand side. However, I have found that it can actually be quite mixed, and you can definitely find males turning up on the right-hand side of the map, because actually right here, we are on the right-hand side of the map, as I said, at one of the hidden drink zones, and normally when I come here to this little lake, there is actually normally a few females, but this time there was a solo male, and as I said, this is actually the lake where I shot the melanistic male in multiplayer a few days ago, so it can really be quite mixed up. So again, I definitely recommend checking pretty much every body of water on your entire map, whether it's single player or whether you're in multiplayer, just to see what you can actually find. Now this guy is a light brown, and I wanted to actually show off both of the common colours for lynx and then all of the rares as well, just to give you an idea of what all of the fur types for lynx actually look like. Now, when looking through the night vision, I have found that the light browns actually tend to look really dark, and the greys tend to look quite pale, which actually makes sense because the light browns are the darker common fur type, and the greys are the paler common fur type. As you can see, this one is definitely paler than the individual we showed just before. This one is just a female, and I do have to just say I am shooting them with the 308, just because I knew these aren't anything special. They're not going to be a diamond or any kind of cool rare, so I'm just shooting them with the 308 just to get them down nice and quickly for the video. But just giving you a nice look at what the grey fur type actually looks like. The grey tends, for me, to be one that I will sit there and think, oh, is that a piebald? Or, you know, maybe an albino, if it's in the distance, because it does tend to look quite pale through the night vision. And like I said, with the light brown, it's caught me out a couple of times, thinking that maybe it might be a melanistic, because it just looks a little bit darker. But once you actually get to see them through the night vision and you see that rare for the first time, you'll definitely know about it. So let's actually talk about that now and talk about how we identify the different rares for lynx, especially at night. So starting off here with the piebald. Now the piebald is the sort of least noticeable of the rares for lynx, and the real sort of big characteristic of a piebald lynx is this white stripe that goes like across and around the shoulders. Now I actually did shoot this guy at night off of my own map, and I noticed that stripe across the shoulders. It actually does stand out quite well even through the night vision. Obviously, if they're in some darker lighting, it will be more tricky, but in decent lighting, you can definitely really notice that white stripe, and that is the real characteristic of the piebald lynx. Moving on to the albino, and this one was so noticeable. This was probably the most noticeable one for me out of the different rares when actually spotting it at night. I saw this guy out of the corner of my eye and immediately knew that this was something special. These guys glow. If they're in the right light and not too dark a lighting, they really, really stick out. They are so incredibly bright. And a tip that someone called Cashnip, who is an incredible lynx hunter, I've mentioned them before, they are a really, really awesome hunter of lynx, actually mentioned to me, and it's a very noticeable feature, is that the albino lynx lacks that black tip to its tail. So if you're unsure, look at the tail, and if there's no black tip, it's an albino. Now, moving on to the third and final rare for the Eurasian lynx, we have the melanistic. An absolutely stunning rare, mostly pure black, but they do have some of those markings still visible. They are absolutely gorgeous. Now, obviously, if you come across one of these during the day, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb against the white sort of snow and ice of Medved. This is going to really stick out. However, at night, it can be a little bit trickier to identify one of these guys. I had it a few times where I'd see a light brown and it would be in sort of darker, shadowy lighting, and I thought maybe it was a melanistic. However, when you actually do have a melanistic in front of you, you will probably notice it. I noticed it with this guy in multiplayer, and I was pretty confident that that's what I was looking at when I actually shot him. And the thing that really stood out to me is that it just looked like a shadow almost walking around. I couldn't see any markings, which is something that I was learning to do as I was trying to identify lynx and with their different rares and different fur types. And I noticed that when it was a light brown, I could normally still see some markings. But with this guy, I just couldn't see any. It was just pure black. So I took the shot and it ended up being a melanistic. So if you end up seeing a lynx and it just looks really, really dark, like I said, almost like a shadow walking around, I would be more careful with that. You may get tricked, like I said, and end up shooting a light brown that's in, in the shadows of trees or whatever, and it just looked really dark. Like I said, I did that a couple of times. But I think it's worth to be, more cautious if you do see a lynx that looks darker than the rest. Just take a few extra steps, be a little bit more cautious, make sure you're using the ethical weapon and everything. Unless obviously it's a female and you don't care about getting full score, I would definitely be a little bit more careful if you see a lynx that looks darker than the rest, because that's what I did with this guy, and it did end up being a melanistic. Now, as we come to the end of the video, I want to give you guys one final tip. If you go to a body of water and you don't see any lynx there, take the time to just run around in the vegetation, in the reeds, around the edge of the lake, whatever, and just spend some time and just check that there was no lynx there by looking for tracks. Sometimes these guys can really hide themselves pretty well in, like I said, either the reeds or different vegetation, and because they're quite a small animal, they can get missed. Now, I definitely would recommend doing this and checking for tracks, because you never know, you might pick up a track and it says albino or melanistic or piebald, or you might end up picking up a max weight track that leads you to a diamond. And I definitely would recommend doing this because, like I said, sometimes they can just hide so well. And I think you can probably imagine a melanistic that's hiding in the shadows. You might just not see it, and then it runs off and you move on and you never actually get to see that animal. So definitely just take that little bit of extra time to go around and pick up tracks. And, if you see a lynx and you think, oh, that looked a little bit different, just go and pick up the track and just see if you can work out what fur type it is. Because that's exactly what happened with me and the albino. I got to that lake and I just, out of the corner of my eye, saw what looked like a really pale lynx just take off. And I went and picked up the track, and sure enough, it was actually an albino. Now, on the same note, if you're doing this and you end up picking up, say, multiple tracks of male lynx that are in the same weight range, don't forget that will cause a bug. So let's just use this as an example. If you pick up one max weight estimate lynx track and then you pick up another max weight estimate lynx track, it's going to say the same fur type as the initial track that you picked up. However, if you do have that situation where there's two max weight lynx tracks and you want to know the fur type, look for a different species track in the area, say a reindeer, or a female Lynx track. That will then force it to sort of fix itself, and then it will show you the correct fur type when you go and click on that second track. This will also work as well if you pick up a different weight estimate male track. So like I said, imagine you have 2 max weight estimate male tracks next to each other. If you click on the first one, it's going to say, for example, light brown. If you click on that second one, it's going to say light brown too. But if you go and pick up, say, a minimum weight estimate male Lynx track and then go back to that secondary track, it will then show you the correct fur type for that secondary track. It's gender, weight, and species specific. It will only bug out if you click on 2 tracks that are the same weight estimate and the same gender from the same species. It's basically like it gets confused because you've clicked on 2 tracks that are the same, and it's almost like it copies the information from the first one and puts it on the second one. But by then changing it and clicking on a female track or a different weight estimate track or a different species track, it's like it resets it. And it's really incredibly sort of difficult to try and explain. So I hope that that wasn't too confusing and I've got it across okay. But yeah, that's a really big tip, especially if you're going around picking up tracks in multiplayer and you end up picking up multiple of the same weight estimate from the same gender and the same species. You might need to sort of go and find another track just to check that you're not missing out on a rare. So I thought that that would be something quite important to talk about in this kind of video, because I know that those of you that have requested this guide are going to be going out looking for Lynx trophies, and if that happens to you, I don't want you guys to end up missing out on a rare because of that slight issue. So sort of thought that would be a good place to say it. And of course, if you're looking for any other species and you're picking up tracks and doing the same thing, looking for rare fur types, that's also going to be a really helpful tip because it works the same on all species at the moment. So yeah, that is going to be it for this video, guys. I really hope that it has been useful and in some ways enjoyable. I've tried to cover everything that I think is really important and what I've come across as I've been grinding. So hopefully that'll be useful. And like I said, check all of your water sources, anywhere where animals can drink. Go and see if you've got Lynx there. And yeah, good luck. I hope you guys can find some really, really awesome trophies before they remove these drink zones. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens after they remove drink zones in terms of how Lynx are going to be hunted, if they're going to be even more difficult to hunt. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.